Wait, what is this shit?
Not safe for f***ing worker placement podcast.
I flipped the board. I despise that game. Oh, shit. That sounds like... Oh, wait. Hello and welcome to the 14th episode of the Not Safe for Worker Placement podcast, a board game podcast brought to you by me, Leandra.
And me, Ben.
We're married and we're here to talk shit about board games.
That's what we will do.
Yes, it is, babe.
Episode 14.
Woohoo!
Back at it again.
Yes.
After a little bit of time off. Seems like it's been forever, but I think it's been somewhere around 3 weeks.
Has it really been 3 weeks?
Yeah, it's definitely been some...
I'm sorry, everybody.
Some slight delays going on.
With the holidays.
Yeah,
and
it's just, a little bit it's a little bit of everything. Every time we're ready to... And some of the times it's just like, we're going to record tonight. And then I get home and I'm like, I don't feel it.
Yeah.
I can't do this. And then we had work Christmas party for you. We'll talk about that a little later. That was pretty fun, but that took up one of our normal recording days. But anyway, that gave us more time to play some more games. And we've played a whopping 3 games or so, right?
Right.
1 game a week. That's our schedule.
In our defense, we did play one of the games a couple times.
Whether we like it or not,
yes.
We're going to play 1 game a week.
That's right.
No, you're right. We did play Codenames Duet several times. So we're going to talk about some of those games after we do what we always do, which is plugs right out of the gate. So you're already listening to us, so I don't really know why I'm plugging to you, but this is for you to spread the word to others. Send them directly. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200 to www.nsfwp.com and check out all of our episodes, some pictures of games we've been playing, a photograph of us if you want to know what we look like. It's not heavily Photoshopped, just a little bit of beauty filter on there for me, you know. And you can also check us out on iTunes. You have to search for Not Safe for Worker Placement podcast. And then also we are on Stitcher, NSFWP podcast, and YouTube, if you should so choose to listen to a podcast on YouTube, which I guess some people do. And so there we are. So subscribe and like and all that fun stuff. Check out our Facebook page and our Twitter as well, all under NSFWP podcast. Plugs are out of the way, and now I'm exhausted. I can't go on. I cannot continue. You're going to have to carry the show. Take it from here, babe.
Okay, well...
what have we been playing?
What have you been playing recently? The first one on my list is Codenames Duet.
It's almost like we just mentioned that.
Oh my gosh.
So, Codenames Duet.
Man, that is so much harder than it is for the original.
Oh yeah, well the original is a party game, right? And I mean, it's a great party game. It's by Czech Games Edition and designed by designer extraordinaire Vlada Shavatel. So, Codenames is kind of took the board game world by storm when it came out, and it's infiltrated into the mainstream stores. They sell it at Walmart and Target and all those things, and it's a word game, but it takes a twist on word games that nobody had ever really done before, right? So explain how Codenames works, and then we'll get into how. So
the original Codenames works. You're in teams. You have a 5x5 grid of, is it 5x5?
Yeah.
Yeah, 5x5 grid of different words. And so you get your team captain of both sides share this little graph that tells you which color each 5x5 piece is colored. So like red or blue, depending on which team you're on. And then tan is like the neutral color. And then black is the assassin. And so the whole object of the game is to be the first team to get all of the cards with
all of
your
words
coordinating colors.
Yeah.
And so you try to... and you only can give one word clue. And so you try to
give one word and one number, right?
Yeah, one word, one number. So you try to somehow link as many of your color cards as possible. So, you could say Europe 3, and there might be, 3 different cities in Europe that you could link together.
That's highly unlikely, but yeah.
It is. But I'm just as an example.
Yeah, so say, but the idea is to like link sometimes unrelated things. You got to find a way to make them related.
Yes, and sometimes they're just unlinkable.
Yeah. And so the more you can get in one try, obviously the better, because sometimes it goes down to where, hey, I'm just going to say like animal one, because rabbit's the only thing that I can't make rabbit, match with anything else. But let's say I had one of the rare words down there that was for our team was rabbit and zoo and cook. I could say hop 3, and then I would hope that somebody would tie together. They would see hop, and they would go, okay, that's the rabbit. 3 rabbits, zoo. I don't know, zoo, cook.
But then you don't want to just take wild guesses, because you don't want to give the other team.
Yeah, you can get theirs right.
Yeah, you can get theirs right, or you can accidentally pick the assassin. And so that's the basis of Codenames, the original Codenames.
And if you pick the assassin, then the other team immediately wins.
Yes.
So that's basically it. Now, Codenames Duet takes that exact same format and makes it cooperative with 2 players.
So much harder.
And so explain what the differences are now.
So the difference between Codenames Regular and Codenames Duet is the shared card is now double-sided. And so you're looking at your side and I'm looking at my side, and we're looking at this 5x5 grid of words, except that one of your colors, one of my colors, one of the neutrals, and one of the assassins overlap.
They're the same on both sides.
They're the same on both sides. And so
there's 3 assassins now.
And there's 3 assassins, and two of them are different on each side. And so the first time we played, we didn't realize that.
Yeah, I got the rules way wrong on that. And we were like, this is impossible, because we were thinking that if we got an assassin even on our own side,
if you made me pick an assassin that was showing an assassin on my side,
yeah, it's confusing as hell. It's confusing anyway, but basically, we have that one assassin that we could both get that is the same on both our sides, but the other 2 are opposite. So like when I'm giving clues, I can't when I'm answering your clues, I cannot really look at my thing at all. And that was a mistake. We were looking at our sides while we were answering questions, trying not to get anything bad. But what you have to remember is both sides are different, other than those 3 different blocks. So you kind of really can't look at your board at all. You have to just go with your gut. But it's very hard, and it's timed, because you only get 8 turns to do it in. So if you don't do it in 8 turns, so you really have to do multiples. You will never do anything if you're just doing a 1. You're never going to get anywhere.
And so the first night we pulled it out of the box, we kept on playing and kept on. We played 4 times that night, because we're going to win. We're going to win a round. We can't stop. We
figured out the rule that we were doing wrong. And at that time, we were like, oh, well, we would have won 2 turns ago had we not known that, because we knew the answers to the question, but we refused to answer them because we were like, well, that's an assassin for sure, but we didn't even know, and they weren't. They would have been right. So we're like, well, technically we won that one, but that's literally the only game of it we won.
We won.
We tried it with 3 players, because you can play it technically in teams. I tried to play against you and Vaughn together, and
we still lost.
We still lost. I mean, not against, but with you 2 on a team. And yeah, it's just super, super tough. And I think it's harder.
The time restraints makes a big, huge difference.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because you don't have that at all in the original.
No, and the other one, you have time restraint if you want to use a timer, but you don't have that limited number of turns. Yeah, that's what really does it. So yeah, in the end sometimes in the other one, if there's hard combos out there, then people just go, we're already up. So if we just get 1 per turn, we'll probably win unless they get some crazy combo. In this, that's not an option. You just have to make combos, or you have to guess. And the one cool thing about this one is at the very end, if you're out of time, whoever's turn it is now to guess, you don't get to give any clues. They just get to make wild guesses and try to win. I mean, and that usually results in getting the assassin or whatever. That's how we came down to it with you and Vaughn and I. We needed 3 cards. And there was 3 that I was looking at, and I picked the assassin first. I was like, oh, I would have got the other 2, and then I would have picked the assassin probably anyway. But so I think it's really cool, and it makes me want to play it a lot, since that's a good co-op that's hard and makes you want to play it again. That's a good sign.
Yeah, absolutely. It's challenging and it's frustrating because the answers. You just got to make sure you get them fast enough, and that's been our biggest challenge for that. So I'm looking forward to playing again and getting my butt kicked.
So that's Codenames Duet. We're definitely going to give that some more plays and hopefully get a legitimate win in at some point, right? All right, what else have we been playing, babe?
We played a new one called Photosynthesis.
Yes, we did. Photosynthesis is by Blue Orange Games, and it's designed by Hjalmar Hawk. And I'm sure I am not pronouncing that name right.
You sound like you were hawking up a loogie, but...
Don't say that about that poor man's name.
I'm sorry.
Oh, my God. How many times has he probably heard that from racist people like you?
Oh, man.
No, I don't. I have no idea his
Say it again.
His ethnicity. I'm definitely not saying it right.
Say it again.
It's spelled H-J-L.
No, I don't want to hear how it's spelled.
Hjalmar Hawk. That's probably not right. Oh, now you're doing it again. You're doubling down. Oh, my God. You sound like there's an old Eddie Murphy thing. I think it was on Raw or something. I used to listen to that tape constantly when I was about our daughter's age, which is kind of disturbing.
I don't think that was appropriate for 8-year-olds.
He would be like, oh, God, it's very racist, but it just reminded me because he would do like, I shouldn't even do it, but no, I shouldn't do it. I'm not going to do it. Just
do it.
Go listen to Eddie Murphy Raw if you want to hear some.
Yeah, that's enough of that description.
Extremely hilarious, but at this point, not politically correct humor. So, yeah, I'm definitely not going there.
No,
so anyway,
don't go
Hjalmar Hawk. Okay.
Photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis. That's where we were. I got completely sidetracked. Okay, photosynthesis.
First off, is a beautifully visual game.
Oh yeah, the visuals are amazing. So what do they consist of? There's board, standard board. It looks like it's a circular type board. Actually, it is I believe it's a hexagon.
I think it's a hexagon.
Hexagon. Well, it's a board. It's a square board with a hexagon pattern and a lot of smaller hexagon patterns within it. But then the main component are all these trees, and they're 3-dimensional trees that are made out of cardboard. You have to put them all together when you punch it out. And I think you get, I don't even remember the exact count, but each player gets something like 8 small trees, 4 medium-sized trees, and 2 large trees, I believe. And they're all of your player colors. So like there's maples, and then there's oaks, and then there's some weird blue tree that's some kind of evergreen that doesn't really exist. But the idea and the theme of the game, which I think is brilliant, is that you are trees fighting for life in the wilderness by trying to get light and block other trees from getting light, which is the aspect that most people don't think about, I think, but that's a reality in nature, is that plants not only grow taller and broader and stuff to get light themselves, they also do it, I don't know, purposely or if evolutionarily, but they sometimes develop traits to block other things, like things that grow underneath them that would take them over, like grass and stuff. They grow and evolve to kill those things off by not allowing them to get light. And that's the whole point of this game. You're trying to block other people from getting light and get the most light yourself. But what's cool about it is that on the outside edge of that board, there's this giant sun piece of cardboard. It's like about a half of a sun, right? And it moves to each spot of the board, each corner of the hexagon every round. And that changes the direction that your trees are getting light. So you're basically putting trees out, growing your trees, and trying to maximize that light, but you have to plan ahead because whatever you do in this turn, the whole perspective is going to change the next turn when that sun rotates around. So I found that to be almost impossible to really plan for, but really cool as far as tactically. What did you think about that?
The game was very interesting. I totally got my butt whipped on it.
I really did.
You really did.
Smash you on that one.
You totally did, babe. But it was very interesting. I wasn't thinking ahead enough. So all of my little seeds that I was planting were in the wrong spot, or I just wasn't thinking ahead enough for that sun to go around, and then you evolve your plants into the big daddy plant, the big daddy tree,
and then you have to kill it off.
And then you have to kill it off.
And depending on where it was growing, it gets more points. The farther in towards the center of the board you get, the more points they're worth when they die. So you basically start out with seeding the board with a couple of trees, no pun intended, but actually you don't seed the board. You actually put little trees on the board. And then from those little trees, you can actually put seed tokens out. And then you can spend your points. So then every round, you're going to look at where the sun's at and get points depending on the size of the tree that you have and if it's getting light. And then they basically block the same size or smaller trees that are directly behind them with their shadow, so they don't get any points. That's how the blocking part comes.
I just didn't get enough trees out there to produce enough. What was that called?
Light points.
Oh, it was just light points.
Yeah.
So I never got enough to start producing light points to be able to buy more trees. So that was where I was kind of stuck. It's like, I haven't got enough out there to really get more trees to be able to put out there.
Yeah.
So I was kind of stuck somewhere in the middle there. But
I think you went for a strategy, and I think there's definitely multiple ways to win this game. I think you went for a strategy of getting all of your little trees out and then not growing them as much. Like you kept doing your mediums and growing them to the big tree and then killing them and then doing it that over and over. And you kind of left a bunch of little bitty trees out there,
Yeah.
And I mean, they're getting you some points, but not as many.
Don't take that tactic. It didn't work.
That seemed to be what you were doing, because you got all your little ones around the outside edge, which is kind of a strategy because they're always going to get some light that way. But then you just weren't growing them any taller because you weren't wanting to block your other trees from your own trees, because you can block your own trees from getting light. It's very hard. It probably makes no sense the way we're explaining the game, but if you look at a picture of this board and then kind of take that in context with what we're talking about, you'll see. Because it's a real 3D aspect of I've got a small tree and it's behind a medium tree, so it's not going to get any light if the sun's coming from that direction. But if the sun's coming from a different direction, then it's going to get light fine. It's never going to be able to block that medium tree, but it could grow to be a large tree. And then whenever the sun rotates around there, it could be blocking that same tree that was earlier blocking it, which is interesting.
And having the board filled with all these 3D different colored trees was pretty cool. I
cool.
really liked the way the board looked.
Yeah, I think design-wise, this is a game, if you ever wanted to say a game is elegant, because it's so simple. The rule book is one folded page of rules, so it's 4 pages basically, and I think the back page is just like a quick reference. And the player boards that you have basically tell you everything you can do in the game and how much it costs and all your actions. So once you set the board up, it's like, okay, here's how it works. 2 minutes, you're off playing the game, and then from there, it's just about figuring out strategy, which I don't think we only played it once so far, so I really don't think either one of us have figured out a real strategy in the game. But to me, it's very, if someone is super smart and can visualize these things in that 3D space and plan ahead 2 or 3 moves of the sun, they could really get a lot of points in this game. I could barely look ahead 1 move, and then I'd be like, okay, that makes sense to do that now. But then 2 turns later, I'd be like, oh, that was a bad move. 2 turns of the sun later, but I thought it was really good. I thought, man, for a game that theme to come out of nowhere and be like, who would ever think of that? Someone had to really just have like a, light bulb moment and be like, this thing that happens in nature is perfectly adaptable to this type of game, And what's really cool about it is like our whole focus of this main feature of this game is going to be about luck and randomness in games. There's really no randomness at all.
No, it's completely planned.
It is completely out there, and it's just up to you how far ahead can you figure this puzzle out, pretty much. So I think Photosynthesis is really cool.
Yep,
I want to play it again. I don't know how it is with more players. I'm sure it would get more cutthroat. With 2
There'll
players,
be less spaces.
Yeah, there'd be less space on the board. It'd get real crowded real fast, and there'd be less area to expand, and you'd have to do more growing and dying off, So I'd like to try it with more players just to see how it changes it, but really, really, really cool game. So that was Photosynthesis by Blue Orange Games. All right, and after that, we had a game night over here, and I tried to get Vaughn to play something else with us, like Photosynthesis or something, but he was insistent on playing his new D&D game that he got, which is not new. It's actually the first of the line of D&D adventure games that came out. Previously, I do believe I talked about the Legend of Drizzt one that we used to have, and then I played with him and Craig. But Vaughn really liked that, obviously, because he went out and picked up the original one, which is called Castle Ravenloft, and he picked up the newest one, which is Tombs of Annihilation, I think. So we tried out the Castle Ravenloft variety and convinced you to play with us. So when we were playing this game, did you remember ever playing this game before?
I did.
You did? Okay.
Yes,
you
I
didn't
did.
For a long period
I
in the
know.
game.
Well, just saying the name just doesn't mean crap to me. Like, it just doesn't.
Remember I told you it's 4th edition D&D in a box, which is pretty much what it is.
It is. Yeah, you're exactly right.
All the rules and all of the terminology and everything come out straight out of 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons, which is what we started out playing. Yep. So that's easy for me to remember because I have those like ingrained in my brain, how that works, which is good. And it's basically a quintessential dungeon crawler.
Yep.
I think it's a really slick system. It gets really hard. The more players you have, the harder it is, I believe, because you're going to spawn a monster pretty much every turn. And the more players you have, the more monsters you have, so the quicker the game ramps up. And how did we do in that game, Ben?
Oh, well, we effing died.
Pretty fast, right?
Pretty fast.
I think it was the night before. Vaughn came over a little late, and you were like ready for bed, and him and I played it, and we won the scenario.
Oh, yeah, that was when I was binge watching Gilmore Girls.
That's right. So you had much better things to do.
I did.
Obviously. I tried to give you an out and say that you were going to bed, but you had to go.
Sorry.
You had to go all, oh, no, I can't even remember. What's the town called?
What, from Gilmore
Yeah.
Girls? Stars Hollow.
Stars Hollow. Yeah, I could never pull that.
It's okay.
I was going to say some joke about the town, and then I'm like, oh, shit, I don't even know it.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'd played it the night before, and I was like, we got this. You know, we won pretty handily, and then we got our asses handed to us.
Vaughn really wanted to play again.
Yeah, he really did. So we did. And
like Ben won the toss-up to pick the game, and he picked the one Vaughn wanted because he wanted to play that bad.
he was giving me sad puppy dog eyes, and I was like, okay, let's play your game, you big baby. And I still like that game. I think it's super fun. We just let it get out of hand. Well, dice rolls were bad. I think, it's a D20 rolling game. D20, that type of die is so swingy, and especially whenever, you have, the whole idea of that is just what we're talking about in this episode is it's randomness and luck mitigation, because that's what D&D is all about. We talked about this kind of at the beginning of the game. It's like, there's really no other game that's about mitigating dice rolls more than D&D, because the whole thing is like up your stats so that you get better bonuses on this roll, because the roll is so unpredictable. 1 to 20 is impossible to predict what's going to happen, So basically what was happening was I was rolling 20s all night long for the bad guys, you know what I mean? And none for us. And everybody was rolling like shit for our team, So we just got stomped.
I liked your new little dice roller thingy.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. I wish I could remember the name of the company. I'll have to look that up, and I'll mention it at the end of the episode. But I got these at the convention that we were at GAME. It's called GAME Convention. It's an acronym for some shit I don't remember. That happens in Springfield. We had a booth there for our convention and our podcast and our gamer group and stuff. And this guy that he does a comic, he does a local comic book too. I think it's a web comic. He also works at a box store. He's a graphic designer for them. And so he got with the guys, the engineers that design their boxes. And he's like, I want to make these dice trays that were like dice towers that are made out of cardboard. And I've seen some before, and sometimes they're cheap and chintzy. Well, this dude designed the outsides of them, the artwork, and then he had this engineer and him work together to make them, very inexpensive dice tray tower combos. I'm talking all about it, and I don't remember the name of the company, but actually I don't even know if he's making them for mass production yet or anything. And I got a Cthulhu themed one. It looks really cool. And basically it folds up into a little box smaller than like a shoebox even, and then you just pop the inside out, set it up, and it's got the little everything made out of cardboard.
You just throw your dice in there and it rolls it, and it's got its own little tray, and it's just really neat.
I just thought it was really cool. The guy that idea happens to work at a box making store and can just like, hey, I want to make this out of cardboard.
That's a great idea.
Yep, I thought it was really cool. So I'll plug them at the end of the show.
Make a note so you don't forget.
I'll probably will forget. Who cares? Since I didn't name anything, nobody will even know who I'm sliding. So the best thing about that game was the dice tray, right?
Yeah.
The dice roller. No. Okay. So then also I've been on a tear of, I've talked about game design here before and the games that I'm working on and things. And it's, always in a state of half finished, not quite ready to be played state. I have one that's not the first game I ever designed, but it's one of the oldest recent games that I've been working on. And I've got a prototype of it that's pretty well done. Like, I don't think I'm going to change anything as far as components and everything. And so I actually, do like I do on all my prototypes and went overboard with the artwork and stuff and spent way too much time on it for stuff that you end up usually have to go back and change. This one in particular, I don't know if it'll ever get made, so, who cares? It's basically called Rolling Ice, Survival in the Neanderthal Valley. Because the theme of it and the whole idea of the game was that you would be Neanderthals in their last days, right before the last great ice age, and they were getting squeezed out by Homo sapiens invading them. As it's off the coast of Cape Town, where Cape Town, Africa is, I think. Don't quote me on that because I can't remember. I did a bunch of research back when I was first doing it, but now I've forgotten most of those things. But it was somewhere in Africa, and they were basically getting squeezed out by Homo sapiens, and their food supply was starting to run out because of the decreasing temperatures and ice creeping up on them. And so it's about that, and it's basically also about rolling dice, picking dice from a pool, and using those dice to do actions on your player board. And then those actions in turn, you're going to be placing your dudes out in sort of a worker placement area control thing on a board, randomized board out in the middle. And basically you're trying to get control of these different cards. When you place a Neanderthal dude down there, then you get to take the action on the card. And if that fills up all the spaces available on the card, they have from like 3 to 6 spaces. Then if you have majority there, you get the points on the card and any food that has been gathered on there. And you get to flip the card over and put one of your Icemen tokens, which you have a limited number of, on top of that. And then that is no longer in the game. That card represents the ice, the glaciers moving in. And so
I liked the food aspect. So
yeah, the food aspect's pretty neat. That's one of the mechanisms I like.
There was the vegetarian leafy stuff, and then there was the meat, and then there was the cooked food. So you could go to the volcano, and as long as you didn't die, fall in and die, you could turn your food in. You could turn your meat into cooked food, and that was worth more. And
you can upgrade your food types because the food types are worth more money each, or more points basically at the end of the game. The points, you can score points immediately in the game by doing things on the territories. And
there's
also,
a mating cave.
There's a mating cave. So you start out with a limited number of meeples, and then you can go to the mating cave. And if you get 2 dudes there, you take the mating cave action. Well, not 2 dudes, I guess.
Not 2 dudes.
Not in the Neanderthal age, anyway. We hadn't perfected that technology yet. So then you get to pull one of your ones from your supply and put them on the board. So that's how you can populate, and get more available meeples. And then the one thing that I like about it is like, okay, so one of the actions is that you can gather food. So depending on the type of area you're at, it's either you're going to be able to find vegetable food, fruits and berries or whatever, or meat. And then you can just spend an action if you have the right die to place one out on there. And then it's basically at the end of the round, you add up the total number of food that's been placed on there, which can't exceed the number of points that tile is worth. And that's divided equally among the different players that are there. So if there's like 2 player colors and there's 4 pieces of food on there, everybody's going to take 2 from the supply because you're basically peacefully sharing that tile for now. But the real point, so everybody can get points throughout the game by doing that. But I might decide that I want those 4 on my own, so I can start a fight with you and try to kick you off there so that I get all 4 of those at the end of that turn, for myself. So basically that's the aspect of that. And then when you do, when that tile is completely full of meeples and you determine the winner, then whoever wins that gets all of the food that's been gathered on that area too. And there's also a saber-toothed tiger and a mammoth that roam around the board. They've got an AI program that they run off of by a card flip, and they move randomly like that every turn. And the mammoth will eat all the vegetable food that he comes across on your tile, and the saber-toothed tiger will eat all the meat food. And if there's no meat food on there, he'll eat one of each player color that's on there, one of your meeples. So, and you can kill them for food and points and stuff throughout the game. But that's basically it. I think it works pretty good.
It was fun. It was absolutely
I
fun.
like it. I've played it I've play tested it more than anything else, but I've only ever played it with 2 players, and it plays up to 4. I really need to get it out now that I've got a really good working prototype and get it out and let people play it and pick over it. And I could probably change some things to make it better even, Mm-hmm. But I think it's a pretty decent game. So
I think so too, baby.
And on top of that, I've been working on a super secret, top secret project that I will not talk about because it is a winner and it's going to be fun. And I've been pouring a lot of energy into that lately, which is another reason why I've been putting off the podcast, because I've had whole days off and I've worked, 8-9 hours of a day on this one project. So whenever that gets,
but it's going to be awesome.
Whenever that gets closer to reality, I'll talk more about that. But that's all that we've played, basically. Then at game night, I've been playing a lot of Scythe lately. Also, yesterday, I had a little game day on my day off, and my buddy Matt came down. We played Fallout, the new FFG game about the Bethesda 2K video game Fallout. And it basically is an adventure game that does a really good job of something that I'm interested in because of things that I'm, working on, where it has a narrative aspect that really tells us cohesive story. So you've seen a lot of adventure games where you go, like, say, Touch of Evil or something, where you go somewhere and something happens, but it's not tied into really the overall story of the game. This one does it in a way where you have this huge card catalog full of, hundreds of cards, and they're all numbered and you keep them in order. And as you go around and do these adventures, you'll do these actions and you'll look through these, you'll pick what kind of deck, that you're going to encounter depending on the place you're at. And, it's a post-apocalyptic world and whatnot, but if you know Fallout, they do a really good job of like recreating that. So you go to one of these areas and you pull a card from that deck, and that card will usually have like 2 or 3 options on it. And depending on which one you end up doing or picking, either you can do it right then or some there are quests you have to go do. But once you complete them, it will tell you then, okay, now shuffle this card into this deck. And then, or stage this other quest. And they're all tied together. And it will say, trash this card and get rid of this other card. So, like, it's putting you on this path that leads you down, the more choices you make, leads you down a narrower path, which means you've made a choice that matters in the game because now you've taken this one option out and you've added this other option in that wasn't in there before because of the decisions you made. And by doing that, they can actually make those stories on those cards fit together into, like, each little, side quest might have 3 cards in it, and then you complete it. And then it opens up this other storyline or this other, area comes out. It's really cool in that way. It's very random. It's very much about, it does a really good job of kind of giving the Fallout feel, because Fallout is just about wandering around, to me anyway. I hardly ever did the quest. I just wandered around and found shit and, fought stuff that you come across. And there's a lot of that where you're trying to do this quest, but then in the meantime, in between there, you end up fighting 4 guys and leveling up and getting this thing that made you want to change your complete mind. And then somebody else does the quest while you're messing around, So it's really hard to have direction in the game, but it's also just fun to mess around in it. So Fallout's really good. And then we played one called Spirit Island. Spirit Island was a successful Kickstarter, I think, just last year. It's a co-op game about being spirits on an island.
Wow.
Go figure. I'm vamping because I'm looking for the Board Game Geek page on it, and then I pulled up so I could tell you the designers. The designers are R. Eric Rouse, and it's published by Greater Than Games. Okay, it's got a lot going on in the game. It's not a super simple co-op, but it's got a lot of moving parts, and it's very asymmetrical because there's so many, especially in the Kickstarter version that he has, there's so many different spirits. There's like 15, 16 different ones, and every one of them plays differently and has different special abilities. And basically what you're doing is you're playing cards to manipulate this board and try to get these invaders. Basically, the white men are coming into your native island, and there's some natives that live there that you're peaceful with. As long as they're cool with you, you can kill them to your advantage, because you're the spirits. You care about the land, and sometimes they're a good buffer between the land and the invaders. But all the systems work really well. I don't know it well enough after just playing it once and learning it from him to really explain how everything works. But it's basically about they increase their power in steps, and you can see the order they're going to do it and where they're going to do it on the board, and you have to go and plan ahead. And it's basically about hand management and card play, and you're doing that to try to kill them all. And then the farther that you can stretch the game out, because the game can really get out of hand really fast and you could lose really fast, but if you keep it in hand long enough and keep playing your cards right, you're going to get the original win condition is you got to wipe every invader off the board. That's how you win. But the longer you can hold out, you get this one deck that goes down, and then it'll give you a win condition that's easier. So you can replace that. You got to kill everybody, where maybe you just have to kill all of, knock out all their buildings, and then you win. So the longer you hang in there, the easier it gets to win, but the harder it is to hang in there. So that's Spirit Island by Greater Than Games. I'd like to play it again to check it out a little bit more. I definitely will not get this game because it costs like $100 to try to get a hold of it now. So probably never going to get it, but at least I know somebody who has it. So I think that's pretty much it for what we've been playing, right?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, that only took 35 minutes. That's about normal, right?
Yep.
About a third of the whole show. All right. Well, let's go on to an ad for, you guessed it, Moon City Con. And then we'll be back with our feature of the episode about randomness and randomness mitigation in games. Psst, psst. Hey, you. The one over there yawning.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a little info for you.
What's that?
Well, you like board games?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. You like the dangerous kind?
Ooh, I do.
I don't know where I'm going with that. But do you like board game conventions?
Yes. How did you know?
I could read it on your face from a mile away. Well, let me tell you this info. April 14th, 15th, 2018 in Springfield, Missouri.
In Springfield?
Yeah. Home of the Andy's frozen yogurt chain.
I love Andy's.
I used to think they were local to Springfield. Remember that?
They're not. We Googled it.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, April 14th and 15th, Springfield, Missouri. Moon City Con.
I'll be there.
Inaugural event will happen. So, everybody within the sound of my voice, go to www.mooncitycon.com and get your tickets today. It's a 2-day board game convention, mainly focused on, you got it, playing games. So we're going to have play-and-wins. We will have tournaments, lots of open play. We'll have companies there, dealers, publishers. It's going to be a big deal. So come on out. Let's see you there. Get a t-shirt while you're at it. Put some money in my pocket. Just kidding. It won't put any money in my pocket, believe me. But I did design those t-shirts. And
they are awesome t-shirts.
You can put them in the coffers of the Moon City Con committee. Otherwise, we'll all be begging for change come April 16th. I'll be best when I'll be begging for change. Yeah. Just look for me there, unless you now go to www.mooncitycon.com and get your passes. Keep me off the streets, y'all. And we're back.
We're back.
Right on time, babe.
Thank you.
Man, your timing is impeccable. So, we're back with our main feature of the episode. We're going to talk about randomness in games and the ability to mitigate that randomness and how it's done in different games.
I feel like the word randomness needs to have an echo behind it. Randomness.
You just did it. No, that's post-production I do not even need to do.
Yes.
Awesome. Good job, babe.
Thank you.
So, randomness in games. Okay, all games have some sort of randomness. Even in, let's say, chess, which has very, very, very minimal randomness. Somebody's got to play white. White goes first. You have to figure that out. Maybe you flip a coin. Maybe
you consider that to be
that's randomness. Random? Yes, almost every game has randomness. Most ancient games that they've found from the Roman era and the Egyptian era. Nice, babe. You just throw out the word random in your daily vocabulary so often that I don't even hear it anymore. I think I've got to filter out. And then this one time where it's appropriate, I think
you don't even hear it.
So anyway. Most ancient games that have been found have been some sort of like randomness element, like dice from Rome and Egypt. And the Egyptians used to use these like bones that they had carved out uneven sides on that they could roll and, determine some sort of game, some random element of a game like that. So randomness is a big part of games. It's a big part of casino games. They basically live and die on randomness and probability and people's inability to understand that. But in board games in particular, randomness can be a bad thing in my opinion. I love randomness in games, but randomness for the sake of it, like roll to move in Monopoly and shit like that, and like Sorry, that's just lazy game design. It's not that fun to just roll a die and just do whatever it says, So the best games do it in a way that gives you something to do with that randomness and to manipulate it and mitigate it. So that's what we're going to talk about. So let's first talk about the most common probably type of randomness in board games, and that's dice, right?
Correct.
Wouldn't you say so?
Yes.
So many. I love dice in games. Every game I've designed up to this point has dice in it. I like dice. Dice are fun. I lied. Only one of my games I've designed has dice in it, or a couple. But I do like dice.
That's not true. The very, very first game you designed was all based on dice.
I know. So, but that's only 2. Because the other 2 I was thinking about don't have any dice. So anyway, I do like dice games. But I don't necessarily like the kind of dice games that are just about, rolling them and see what the result is and then something happens. I don't like that nearly as much. I like the idea that I have some pull or power in the result that comes out of those dice, which you don't have the power of the result, but I want to be able to do something with them. So let's talk about that. So a super random game that I think still is good because it surrounds complete randomness of dice with a game that capitalizes on that, and that is Camel Up.
Yes, Camel Up, the cute little, I don't really know how to describe it.
It's a camel racing game.
Camel racing, and you bid on the camels and who's going to lose and who's going to win, and
so
it's all dice.
It's completely random. You can't do anything to the dice. So the dice come out, and then they're colored to the camels, and the camels move that amount. You cannot do anything about that.
That's it.
The only thing you can do is bet on the surefire camel if one jumps way out ahead, which is not even a surefire thing in that game. Or, you can also bet for the loser. So you can be like, well, that one's way far behind. It's super unlikely. So you're still playing probability. You have a hand in it. You have at least something to go off of, but you cannot control those dice. And once they're rolled, they're rolled.
Yep.
The expansion adds a little bit of catch-up mechanism by allowing the fastest camel's dice doesn't go back in for a roll. I think that's what it does on one of them. So it gives the other ones a chance, more of a chance to come out. But the base game itself, pretty random, but super fun, like Camel Up. Okay, and then another game that does mitigation of this very well, I think, is Dice Forge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what do you do in Dice Forge?
You literally take off the sides of your dice and upgrade them.
Yep. And you can make it whatever you want, right?
Yes, but the whole game is, rolling dice.
Mm-hmm.
But then the whole game's also upgrading your dice.
Yep. So you're taking that random aspect, which you can't control which one of those 6 sides of dice pop up, unless you can in this game, because you can put multiple sides of the same thing on there.
Mm-hmm.
So you can really control what's coming up. Now, that's not always a great, strategy in this game, but you can definitely do stuff in that game to minimize the luck and maximize what you're getting out for your strategy. You know what I mean? So that's, to me, maybe the best version of luck mitigation is being able to actually build your own dice, which has been a thing that's just happened in the last couple of years in games. And I think that's going to continue. I think there's going to be more and more games that come out with that sort of, mechanism, because it's really cool. I mean,
it's really cool. That's a fun game.
Think of like D&D or something where that's how you upgrade, is like take your dice and put different powers on them and stuff like that. So I think that does a really good job. So to reiterate what's going on with randomness, I've got some games planned for this episode, babe.
Oh, you do?
You're super excited about it because you saw me bring down a tray full of shot glasses, right?
I did.
And there's 4 shots on this glass, right?
I see that.
So we're going to show the 2 versions of dice randomness right now.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, I'm getting the props here.
I
Okay.
see that.
So I've got in front of me 4 shot glasses.
Yes.
And those 4 shot glasses are all filled with liquid, correct?
Correct.
Now,
I hope that's apple juice.
yes. It's 3 of them are iced tea.
Ooh.
1 of them is whiskey.
Crap.
So what we're going to do is we're going to show the 2 different types of randomness. Now, I can either be the person with the most randomness and you can have the mitigatable part, or vice versa. Do you want to be more random or less random?
Less random.
Good choice.
Thank
so,
you.
the most random way to do it is I'm going to roll this die, and on a 1, 2, 3, or 4, I'm going to drink whichever one of those come up, and we'll number them from 1, 2, 3, 4, right?
Correct.
5 or 6, I don't have to drink at all.
Oh, nice.
So that's my randomness.
Okay.
I rolled a 2,
2.
so I have to drink this one.
Okay.
Okay. I can't smell it or anything. I just have to drink it. Here we go. Okay. So I drank it. Results. I will hold them for later.
Can I smell it?
No, you cannot smell. So now let me introduce the less random version. Underneath these, I have put some numbers. Right?
Yep.
Oops,
2
you
and
see that now.
5, 3 and 6, 2 and 3.
So if you study these,
and 1 and 3.
you will see which one you have the least likelihood of drinking, right?
Yes.
Because there's one of them that is way less likely for you to get than the others. That one is the whiskey. So I'm telling you that right now, that you have a better chance of not getting the whiskey than you do getting the whiskey.
Okay.
Because of the way this is set up. Now, in a game, let's say you would get the chance to assign these numbers to these things, but since you don't know anything about what's in them, so now you roll, and you will drink the one that gets the result.
Well.
Because I knew which one it was anyway. 5. So there's only 1 5 out there. Mm-hmm. So it's this one, and I already drank it.
Yay.
So you now do not have to drink at all. But, see, the least likely one was this one here, because there was only 2 2s on the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you were least likely to get that one. That's the whiskey. I will now drink that.
Thank you.
So.
Can I have the tea?
You can have all the shots of tea you want. So that's randomness and randomness mitigation with dice.
All right. Good job, baby.
Now, let's move on to cards. So, card games, randomness mostly comes out of random card draw, right? In board games. You know, randomness in casino games, probably card games are your least random thing in a casino, technically. Especially if you're good at counting cards, except for casinos cheat, because when you play blackjack, I guess the idea is that it's completely random. But it's weird because they change decks, like they shuffle in multiple decks per game and stuff, and they change out decks per game. They do weird things, right? They do all kinds of weird
cheating.
Stuff. Yeah, they're cheating. They're trying to make a game that's supposed to be luck mitigatable into being completely random so that you can't count cards. But and I don't know exactly how they do all that, but there's some shenanigans going on for them to do it. But a game that is super random in the cards, I believe, that is still a great game, is a game we talk about all the time, and that's viticulture.
Mm-hmm.
Because what's the main thing you're doing in viticulture? You're worker placementing, but what's the most powerful things in that game?
The cards. You have to draw cards to make
like
all the stuff happen.
4 to 6 different types of cards, depending on how many expansions you're playing with. And they're completely random. Like, I mean, we've played this game probably 8, 9 times. We've not seen all the cards. There's no way we could memorize all the cards. Mm-mm. You might know that there's maybe something you can do. Like if I take a summer visitor, I might know that it might have something to do with planting or, you know, something like that. Or if I take a winter visitor, I might think it's going to have something to do with shipping, you know, fulfilling an extra contract or something like that. But I really have no idea what that's going to be. And I might draw it and it might not help me at all. And there's nothing I can do about that except hold on to it and wait till later to get another one and discard it. So he takes randomness and makes a really good game around it, or adds it to a really good game, pretty much, I guess is what he did. He added a bunch of randomness to a game that's otherwise could just be a cutthroat worker placement game, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, got anything else to say about that?
I know. I was thinking about viticulture and actually playing, not really thinking about the cards. I'm sorry.
Well, that's what we're talking about now, so get with it.
I'm sorry.
I'm just kidding.
I love that game. We need to play. It's been a while.
Well, it's been a couple of weeks. We played it not very long ago, like a month ago.
Yeah, with Toya.
Yep. Okay, so viticulture, we decided very random, but still a great game.
Yes.
Now, mitigation of luck in cards is pretty much only if you can know what cards are in the deck, how many of them, and then you can play the probability, right?
Correct.
So one way to do this in games are like, if you play with a standard deck of cards, blackjack is like that. You know, people play enough blackjack a couple of hands. They're counting cards. They know the probability of this thing to come out. Poker is sort of the same way, depending on the game. You know the probability of what you're going to be doing. In board games, what we're talking about, the one we thought about was what?
Dead Man's Draw.
Yeah, Dead Man's Draw. And it's a push your luck game, right?
It is.
And you might not think that's much. The luck is literally in the title of the thing that it, the kind of game it is. But it is about probability. You can push your luck and you might know the probability is bad and you might do it anyway because that's the type of game it is. It makes you want to do that. But you know the probability because you know how many cards of that type are in the deck. You know, and you don't want to get doubles, right? That's the whole point. You're flipping out cards. You don't want to get doubles. If you do, you bust. So you know that if you've got 3 of them here and there's 5 of them in the deck and there's 1 left, well, your probability if there's a whole deck there's not that high that you're going to draw one of those, So you can go ahead and do that. But you also have like 4 other cards there that are the same thing. So like you still have a chance to bust. But it's more about I want to get this certain one and none of them are out. So I have a higher probability of pulling this one I want, instead of not the one I don't want. You have a higher probability of pulling the one you do want to come out. So you can work that angle. I don't know that many people play a push your luck card game in that fashion, thinking like that, but it's possible.
I don't.
There's probably a lot of other games where you can mitigate luck in cards more than that. I mean, I guess you can do it a lot of games do this. A lot of games will be like Spirit Island that we talked about. When you're drawing off this random deck, it will let you draw 3 at a time, pick one, discard the other 2. That's another way to mitigate it. And lots of games do that. But that again,
and the powers themselves on Dead Man's Draw too, I feel like also allows you to do that. Like, because one of them is you can look to see what the next card is. If you don't like it, put it back or whatever. So just the game itself is also, it's random, but it's also mitigation.
That's right. Absolutely. I agree with that. So now as far as cards go, I don't have much to show that. We could play blackjack on air, but I don't think that's that much fun.
No.
I was going to say, basically we could play war, which that's very random and completely non-mitigatable, or we could play blackjack, and basically that shows the idea of, the probability of hitting or not hitting, pushing your luck or not. That's basically the same thing, but we can do that without actually going through it. So we'll move on to other types of randomness in games.
Types of randomness.
Randomness, which is, I think, some of the coolest stuff in games. So we have several examples of randomness where they're not basically dependent on dice and they're not basically just dependent on card draws. Sometimes there's a combination of those things in these games, but one thing that I think that I wanted to talk about that I think is a cool randomizer in games is this thing called a cube tower. And I think it came out in the first game it came out in was called Wallenstein, I believe. Wallenstein is an area control game, kind of like, a Risk type game, except instead of rolling dice like you do in Risk, you have this tower that's like a dice tower, right? Like we were talking about earlier, except it's got these weird levels inside of it that they're not like tilted down like a dice tower to just randomize a thing. They're flat and they have little cutouts in them. And what you do is you throw cubes in there, and some of the cubes get stuck on these different levels. But the more times you throw cubes in there, different ones get knocked off these ledges. And so every time you throw something in there, you don't know what's going to come out. You can up your probability by throwing more of your color in there, because then eventually more of your color is going to fall out, right? But you don't really know. And then that's been used for a couple of different war games like that, Shogun, Wallenstein, and then it got used in a Euro game by Stefan Feld in this game called Amerigo, where they come out and they represent the actions that you can take that turn. So you throw in these different types in there, and then so you might want to be taking more of this one action, so you will do some of your stuff to put some more of those cubes in there because you want them to come out so you can do shipping or whatever. And it's about exploring these islands. So that's interesting. And then I've got a new one called Immortals, which is basically a re-implementation of Wallenstein. So that thing rears its ugly head in lots of different games, So that's the Cube Tower. You said you thought one that was very interesting was The Adventurers, the Temple of Chalk.
Yes.
Right?
I think that was like one of our very first board games with a random element.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of these newer types, for sure. And that game holds up. I played it not very long ago.
It's a fun game.
Do you remember how it
I
plays?
do,
It's been a
yeah.
while since you play. So tell us about it. What is it about?
So it's like ancient times with
Well, no, it's modern, but you're
Wait.
you're explorers. You're like Indiana Jones.
well,
basically.
yeah, but you're going into like Cleopatra and
Well,
that
you're
kind
going
of
into
stuff.
you're going into a pyramid or no, a temple. Yeah.
Temple, yeah.
Like sort of like a yeah.
Do
I
you
don't know if
wanna-
it's Egypt or
I
what
think
it's supposed
it's
to be.
Egypt.
Well, they do have literally a one that's in a pyramid, but this one just says the temple. So.
I think it's Egypt.
Oh no, I'm lying. You're right. It is Egypt because we don't have the Temple of Chalk one. We have the other one. We have the
the
Pyramid of Horus.
Adventures.
Yeah, the Adventures, the Pyramid of Horus. There's 2 games in that series, and I was wrong about the one we have.
Like ours has like a cat and Cleopatra and the crocodiles.
Yeah. You're right. Ours, but it's set in modern times. But yeah,
Well, the people.
they're
okay.
raiding
All
a
right,
pyramid.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, so you got these explorers, and they have to go in and they have to get all these different jewels. I'm not going to break it down piece by piece for you. So you
But
go
the
in
cool
and you
random
have to.
part is what?
Yeah. You have to go in and you have to get these cool jewels, and the further down the board,
Cool jewels, fool.
Yeah. The further down the board you get, the better your shit is.
The further into the
The
pyramid.
further in. And so after each person's turn, you have to draw a block from the box.
And these cool plastic
and
blocks.
Yeah, and underneath the block is the number, and then you have to put the block on its corresponding number square. And so what happens is the more it turns, you can actually block yourself into where you can't get back out of the exit. You can put a block on your person and kill your person. Like it's a fun little neat game.
That's the cool random part. I mean, there's a lot of randomness in that game because you roll dice to see where these little mummy guys move every turn, and they kind of block off spots, and they can hurt you if they hit you. Randomness also comes in that game because there's a bunch of card draws, and you might get something great, and you might get something shitty.
Might get bit by a crocodile
might get bit
or
by a
snake.
crocodile like 100 times, like I always do. But then the more it's got a lot of these things we talked about because that game has push your luck because you know that the more dangerous spots where you get the better relics and stuff, they also have the worst. They've got crocodiles and stuff. Whereas you might get bit by a snake earlier and it's only worth like you basically can only carry so much stuff, and the different bites are worth more weight, basically. So if you get bit by a crocodile, it's way worse than just getting bit by a snake in this game. So, and there's a bunch of dice rolling because you can try to break into these real valuable tombs inside of there, and you have to roll dice to do that. But the coolest randomness and what's interesting in that game, I think, is what you said, the pulling the block.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, if you go to put it down on someone, it's not that big of a deal. They can jump out of the way. They'll take 1 damage from falling rocks, right? And so that's a card they have to hold in their thing. It takes up some of their inventory. But if you go to smash somebody and they can't jump out of the way, then they're just dead. You know what I mean?
Like, and you can completely block them in so they can't get it out of the exit.
And that's what normally happens. How this game ends is somebody goes all the way in deep and gets all the good stuff, and everybody else just starts trying to block, hoping that they're going to block them in. So you don't have any. Well, no, that's a lie because you can. There's some special abilities in the game that you can look at one and put it back.
Yes.
And then you'll know where that one's at. So next time you go to choose, you actually have a little bit of information. If you did that a couple times in the game and it gets down to just a few left, you'd be like, well, I don't want that one. I don't want that one because I want this one that's going to seal this guy in. Because what inevitably happens is everybody decides they've had enough and they turn tail and they run out and they escape because you have to get out to win. But somebody hangs out in there and they're trying to get the really good relic.
It's usually Boone.
And then they get trapped inside the tomb. I've seen like 3 out of 4 people get trapped in a game before. So that's a really cool element of randomness that I like. And then one other one that we have that has a really, really cool, interesting and unique one is called Via Appia. And it's about building the road from Carthage to Rome or something like that back in those days. And it's sort of a race game, and it's an interesting little game, but the action selection mechanism in that game is you're representing a quarry, sort of. You need stones to pave the road is how you're winning the game, basically. You have this little pusher, and you push these stones off the edge of this platform, right? And those stones that you get are the stones you have to build the road with. And the bigger stones obviously end up being worth more points and stuff, and the littler stones can sometimes be valuable to, fill up certain spots. And you may only have room for a certain one, so you're trying to, and so there's 2 different size pushers you can use. They'll go certain distances in pushing it off. And so you can select, I want to do a big push or a little push. And even then, it's all about the force at which you do it, and the how gentle you are and all that. It's interesting. I think that game's pretty cool. And I've never seen anything else like that.
We should play that one again. It's been a while since we've played it.
It has been quite a while on that one. So I think that's very interesting. And the other one that comes up in a lot of games that doesn't fall into the dice or like cards area is like bag draw. So bag drawing is used more and more, I think, in games. Sagrada. Mm-hmm. We talked about that in a couple episodes. Mm-hmm. Sagrada is all about, it's got both because you're drawing random colored dice out of bags and then you're rolling those dice. So it's double random like that.
And I had mentioned Potion Explosion. I think that's a pretty darn random game.
Absolutely. There's no bag draw on that. But that mechanism of that whole, cardboard contraption you have that rolls them down, the chutes and the different marbles come out in different. The only problem I have with that game, it's very random, but except for whenever you're reloading it, like you can influence where they go. That's the thing I don't like. And I think it's just because the little thing doesn't work very good, the cardboard thing.
You're not supposed to influence where they go, Ben.
Yeah, but there's rules for doing it. Because like if you roll them in there and they get clogged up and they fill one up, then it says go to the one that has the least in it or whatever. It's just, that part is kind of weird. But yeah, that whole mechanism of how it works is really cool. Another one I was thinking of was Clank. We played Clank. Mm-hmm. And that's all about bag draw, but you're building that bag. Like the worse you do, the more noise you make, the more of your cubes go into that bag. And usually when you're doing a bag draw thing, it's like you want to get something good out of there. This one's like you don't want your stuff to come out. So you want as little of your color in there as you possibly can, because if it comes out, then the dragon blows fire at you and hurts you. So those are some different examples of randomness and how board games use to mitigate that randomness to make it not just, indeterminable thing that happens to you and gives you some agency in a game. And to represent this final other category we had talked about, I've got one final game for you, babe.
Okay.
You hear that, everybody? ASMR people crackling.
Crackling.
These, I hold in my hand a bag of Bean Boozled jelly beans.
Oh, Lord.
So this represents the bag draw aspect. This is randomness, babe. Do you want to be the very random or the mitigatable randomness?
I want to be the very random.
Okay, so draw one of these Bean Boozled out of here.
Is there tissue so I can spit it out if I get the booger one?
You have to eat it, whatever you eat.
What if I get the booger one?
I don't think there's boogers in here.
What's in there?
I'll tell you after you get it. So grab one. Whatever one you pick, you have to eat it.
Okay. Wait, there's one.
Okay.
Uh-oh, it's yellow.
Okay.
Can I put it in my mouth now?
Well, if it's yellow, it's either rotten egg,
oh man,
buttered popcorn.
Hey.
Could possibly be, let me look at it.
It's yellow with red dots.
Oh, it could be moldy cheese.
Fuck.
Or caramel corn, or maybe even barf, or maybe peach.
Oh my God, okay. If it's bad, I'm spitting it out on this piece of paper.
No, you're eeting it.
No, I'm not.
You're doing it. You're taking one for the team, babe.
All right, I'm doing it, right?
Do it.
Mom, I don't. What is that? Oh.
Is it moldy cheese?
Yes, that's horrible. Give me the tea.
So, all right. I lied to her, people. It's all whiskey.
It's not. No, it's not. It's tea. Oh my God, that's horrible, baby.
Well, okay. So that's completely random bag draw. Now here I'm going to draw 3 and look at the key and decide which one I want. So I've either got in my hand lawn clippings or lime, strawberry banana smoothie or dead fish.
I hope you get a dead fish.
Or rotten egg or buttered popcorn. Well, guess what I'm going for? I'm going for either lawn clippings or lime because either one would be okay. So here we go.
God. Where's the other tea?
That might be lawn clippings, but it's not bad. Yeah, it's definitely lawn clippings. But not bad.
Oh my God, that
so
was
there you
horrible.
Go. I had a chance. and I made the best choice I could out of it. So, that's it for our randomness segment. As I chew on microphone. Everybody loves hearing that, right?
Heck yeah.
All right, we'll be right back with IRL. And we're back with IRL. So, babe, what have we been up to lately besides not recording a podcast?
Well, we hosted my work's Christmas party this year.
Yes, we did.
We were supposed to have about 20 people. We had about 11 show up.
I love having strangers over to my house.
I know you do. I know, but it was super fun.
Yeah, because everybody that showed up I knew. So
yeah, everyone, the half that showed up have already been in the house. So it was super fun. I planned a few games. We played pick up the peppermint or pick up the.
These were heavy Euro games, right?
They were, yes, they were minute to win it games.
So they were dexterity games.
They were dexterity games.
Yeah.
So a candy cane in your mouth, and you have to pick up the other candy canes with just using the hook of the candy cane in your mouth.
My team won that.
Yes.
No thanks to me, Pops.
And the next game was get the cookie from your forehead to your mouth without using your hands.
Vaughn did that. We're not going to tell what body part he used.
Nope. And then the third one was shove balloons.
Oh, stop right there. Oh. Wait. Huh? Oh, sorry.
Shove blown up balloons into pantyhose to go on someone's head to make antlers.
Mm-hmm. The last time I shoved a balloon in my drawers, it wasn't for that reason.
No, it was not. It was not at all. So I think everyone had fun. Everyone said they had fun. Everyone was smiling and laughing, so that's good.
Then we had karaoke.
Lots
of booze.
Yes. That
was a good time.
We had the baked good exchange.
Oh, yeah, we did that.
Yeah, so that was super fun with a cute little Christmas poem.
Yeah.
I think it was a fun time.
It was good. It was good. And we ended up with like 2 or 3 pies out of the deal. I don't know how people just didn't take home their baked goods that they won.
I know. Now they're
We ended up with like 4 different types of baked goods.
I think the best part of the night was one of my employees was here, and it was the first time that he's ever really socialized outside of work. And so I was super excited that he was here already. And he comes in and he's got a bottle of water.
I kept asking him, he's an older guy, and I kept going, hey, you want something to drink? We got beer, we got whatever. He's like, no, I got water here that I brought.
Yeah. And then 30 minutes later, I'm like, hey, are you sure? Can I please get you something to drink? Let me get you some wine or something, And he very nonchalantly unscrews his water cap and puts his bottle under my nose, and the whole entire thing is full of peppermint schnapps. The whole entire thing.
So he basically drank an entire bottle of peppermint schnapps that night, but
the whole thing.
He was having a good time because
he had a blast.
He was doing karaoke, and
it was it was so fun to see him having fun. Like he doesn't talk at work, hardly at all, and unless we speak to him, he doesn't barely speak at all. And he caught me outside of and kind of walking back and forth to the office yesterday, and he's like, he said he had so much fun doing karaoke with us.
Well, that's awesome.
Yep.
I felt kind of bad for him when we were doing like 90s gangster rap, and I was like, oh God. Well, I felt bad for everyone involved because it was pretty bad. But when we busted out some TLC waterfalls, it went pretty good. So, well, that was the work Christmas party. It was pretty good this year. I liked it.
I think so.
Fun. I don't really remember the end of it, so that means it was a success.
Heck yeah.
All right. And then on top of that, for my IRL, I will just say that I finished the final book of the Brandon Sanderson Stormlight Archives. Actually, what I thought, that's wrong. I thought this was going to be the final book. Turns out it's still going. I thought it was a trilogy, but it's still going. So 2,000 pages and plus later, I thought was supposed to wrap up everything that was going on, and I'm pretty sure it's going to just continue. So the guy's a glutton for punishment for writing super long books. But on top of that, I'm
burping up moldy cheese.
I know it's disgusting. In the break in between here, I grabbed one random and ate it, and it was definitely like the rotten egg.
You spit it out.
It was disgusting. Oh, it's unedible. You can't do that. So anyway, we had this Sunday, we decided, because we were both nursing slight hangovers from the Christmas party, we went and picked up Lily early in the morning. First of all, she wasn't here, of course. We're not that horrible parents. So we went and picked her up in the morning so that she didn't have to go to church at her friend's house because she was not about that. And so we went and got her, and she started doing her veg out day, watching YouTube all day. And so we sat down in the chair together and we're like, we need something to watch. We already burned through Stranger Things, season 2, and we really had nothing going. And I saw on the Netflix menu this show called Dark. And I was like, I've heard of this show, but I think I just saw like a little write-up of it, and I'd heard it was compared to Stranger Things. And I was like, okay, well, that can't be bad, so let's watch this Dark. Could be good. And it comes on, and the first thing that happens, it's got a cool intro, and it's like a creepy song, like a moody song, like and it's in English. And then all of a sudden they start talking, and everyone's speaking German, and there's subtitles. And I'm like, this is just the cold open, right? This is like just the intro, and it's happening in Germany, so they're going to do this, and then they're going to switch over. But no, it never did, and it was all in German. So about that time, I was like, well, okay, maybe we don't want to watch this. I'm just going to turn this off. So I was this close to turning it off, right? And then, I don't know, I think you were like, oh, let's see what happens,
Yeah, because, we were like, 10 minutes in?
Maybe 5 or 10 minutes. As soon as I decided it wasn't going to switch to English, I was like, well, I don't know that I want to get into this show and just read subtitles all the time, which is not really a big deal to me normally because I watch all kinds of Japanese, Korean movies and subtitles, but I wasn't expecting it. I thought it was just a Netflix show. And then we hung in there. Next thing you know, first episode is over and we're hooked on it. There's not a lot you can say about the show without spoilers. Basically, it's set in Germany in the near future, and it revolves around this small town and all the goings-on that happens in this small town.
You get sucked in.
And it is, I think it was excellent.
It was excellent. We literally sat in our oversized chair together for 10 entire hours.
I never even brushed my teeth that day.
We just sat there. We paused.
Till before bed, I finally brushed my teeth.
Yes. We watched like 3 episodes, and we were so tired because we didn't get much.
Oh, yeah, we took a nap.
So we turned it off, went and took a 3-hour nap. We came back, and then we continued to watch it for the next
until 10:30 or so, I think.
We watched the whole entire first season in one day.
I didn't know that, and that's the other thing. Like, it goes in weird places. Like,
it's really
at first,
good.
it's just a mystery, and you think it's this family drama thing, and then, like I said, I do not want to spoil it for anybody, but just watch it. And actually, I think there may be an English dubbed version of it, except we're watching Netflix. We happen to be watching Netflix on our older Blu-ray player that doesn't have like the menu for Netflix on it is weird. It doesn't even give you like the audio options and stuff. But I think there is an English dubbed version of it.
Well, even if you can't,
it's fine. I actually don't want to. I wouldn't want to switch now because I'm used to everybody's voice and stuff. And after a while, just like anything you're reading subtitles, you forget that you've been reading them. It just fits in. But it goes in such weird places, and the ending is so weird. And because the whole time I thought it's going to resolve all these things that are coming up.
No.
And it doesn't do it in a lost way. Like, it does resolve a bunch of things, but then a whole bunch of other things open back up. And then
like you figure
there's a whole new season.
Yeah, like you figure out, that explains that, and that explains that, but then there's, that opens up this, and what about that, and what about that? It's excellent, and we recommend it.
I thought it was just going to be just a one season thing, but I guess Netflix is smart, and they knew if they put a bunch of money into this, if it happened to be successful, because technically they could, with the ending that they had, that could be it. Mm-hmm. It'd be kind of an unsatisfying ending.
Be really unsatisfying.
It did wrap up a story, but it began a new one, kind of. So it would be kind of unsatisfying. But I think that once people catch on to this, I haven't heard anything about it otherwise, but it just came out. So I'd say in a week or so, you'll be hearing about this show all over the place. So definitely check it out. We highly recommend Dark. So that's pretty much our show.
All right.
Episode 14 in the can. What do you say, babe? We do it again, maybe a week quicker next time or something?
Let's shoot for that, except that Christmas is coming.
That's true. If we can get another episode out before Christmas, I would like to, and we would do a Christmas episode. I would like to do one and do a giveaway to the listeners.
Nice.
For Christmas, So we'll put together some sort of giveaway. Just keep your eye on our Facebook page. We might tip off what we're going to do.
Ooh.
And you can get behind it. Oh, one thing, we should wrap up a little business at the end if anybody's still sticking around this long. We did do our poll from last episode for the segment called Buy Me This Game. We still got it, baby. And the poll was pretty much a landslide for Lucidity.
That means I won.
Six-Sided Nightmare over Viva Java Dice.
Just say it, babe.
What?
I won.
You won. You didn't design the game.
But,
what do you mean?
But my choice won.
Yes, it did. I'll probably still buy Viva Java 2 anyway. That's just the way I roll. But it doesn't come out until February, so I mean, we will get it and we will review it, but it'll be a little while before it comes out. So look forward to that. And thanks for everybody that voted and participated in that. And so that is the end of episode number 14. Come back next week where we will talk about some such other things having to do with board games. And then I will stall because someone has something they would like to tell you. Maurice, you told me that you were finally going to come clean. How did you become sentient as a tiny meeple? And furthermore, what have you been eating? Oh my God. That's what passes for an answer?
He definitely passed.
We'll see you later.
Bye.
Hold on. Let's, I'm going to have one of these. Have one. Just grab one.
I'm not grabbing
Come on,
one.
do it.
Oh,
Take one.
Oh, God.
Ooh, this one looks promising. Oh, that's good.
I don't. What?
No, it's not. Mine's toothpaste.
What?
Mine's toothpaste.
Oh.
What's yours?
I don't.
Was that rotten egg?
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's the worst one. Oh, gross.
I'm spitting in my shot glass.
Oh, gross. All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to episode 14 of the NSFWP podcast. We're glad to have you with us. If you would like more episodes or any information regarding this podcast, check out www.nsfwppodcast.com and like us on Facebook and Twitter at NSFWP Podcast. Come on back next week where we're going to talk about the new hotness in romantic comedy board games, Fog of Love. We'll see you then.